Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Ulysses Town Board meeting. It is August 8th, 2023, and I will call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Sure. Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
And Mr. Goldman is joining us.
Present. I'm remote, but I'm present.
And we have a remote attendance policy for New York State law because there is a quorum present in person. Rich is allowed to participate fully and vote on matters before the board tonight. Okay, there is a meeting agenda in front of you. Any changes, alterations, additions, subtractions? This was the agenda that was posted last Friday also. Okay, then I'll accept a motion to approve.
So Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This brings us to privilege of the floor. And we are delighted to welcome so many people into town hall today. Everybody who wishes to speak has the right to speak for 3 minutes. We are going to, I'm going to start a timer. Please identify yourself. And do we request, and anything else that you need for the record where you live? You can if you want, you don't have to. And you may speak to us. The way I typically do it is please most likely rise from where you are given the space and speak to us. I will take one from the audience and go online and back and forth until we have exhausted your interest in addressing us. Everybody is allowed to speak once in this privilege of the floor. There is a second privilege of the floor at the end of the meeting. So even if you think of something else in this privilege of the floor that you want to say, please hold it till the end. It's one and done for this round, so everybody has a chance. So is there anybody in person who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Rob Johnson. I live at 1535 Trumansburg Road. I come here today to ask the board to enact a land use moratorium for the new non-residential construction until the new comprehensive plan has been created. I ask this so that we can prevent the building of Dollar General in an area that is poor for the type of development. As we as a town are in the beginning stages of creating a new comprehensive plan that will update the one that has been created, that was created over 14 years ago. A lot has changed since then, and I believe that it is only prudent to halt all new construction of non-residential buildings until the town comes to a consensus how the town should look and how best to maintain the feel and character of the town. The zoning of the area was done because of the pre-existing businesses that were already there. Those businesses are of a nature that has very low consumer traffic. They are mainly businesses that go to the consumer. I believe that the intention of the current comprehensive plan was misunderstood when adopted into zoning law and aimed to fix that in the upcoming comprehensive plan. In order to protect the gateway into our community, I urge that the board enact a moratorium to prevent this construction. If we allow new commercial construction to continue before we as a town decide what's best for our town, it would be detrimental. Give us the community the time we need to fix this misstep from our previous comprehensive plan, and I ask the board use their power to protect us, the taxpayers, and the citizens of the town from inefficient, ill-conceived growth that is inconsistent with the community's views and would disadvantage landowners. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to move online. Please raise your hand because I can't see everybody's faces. Please raise your hand, use the raise hand button. If there's anybody online who wishes to speak. Oh, not seeing anybody, so I'm gonna give you some time online to figure out how to raise your hand or come online and vocalize. Ah, I see Keith Haddon just popped in. Sorry, Keith is up first.
Thank you. Well, now I got to lower my hand. Wait, there we go. I should know this. Fully remote employee for 3 years now. I thank you for the moment. I just wanted to join during this public comment period and offer my support for the recreational land purchase that is making news recently. I know there's a long way to go on this, but I want to applaud the town board for taking this step. I've been coaching in Trumansburg as long as I've lived here. Lifelong athlete and believer in the need for increased recreational opportunities for our youth. Not going to throw stats at you, but I'm sure everyone knows, you can look it up, the immense benefits that more opportunity have for our youth of all ages and interests when it comes to recreation, and how kids are becoming increasingly more isolated through technology, and how important it is to have more recreational opportunities, both so that they can have team experiences and just be out and be active, and the impact that that has on their mental health as well as their physical health. So thank you, board, for taking these steps. I'm certainly going to be involved as much as I can be. One thing I would speak to is I've been involved long enough to know that anytime land is purchased with a plan, there's going to be a lot of nervous residents, especially those that live in the area of that plan or that land. Rich, I'll try to make this a little bit more exciting. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'm just kidding. And to that, I would just say, hey, look, I mean, I'm sure everyone would love 30 to 40 acres right in the middle of the village that everyone could walk to participate in recreation. Fortunately, that's not realistic. Land is at a premium. And I know that it's been hard to come by. It's something the town has looked at for a while. I know it's something Trumansburg Community Rec has looked at for a very long time. So I applaud everyone for taking the initiative here. Location is always going to be, difficult. It's never going to make everybody happy. And I would also say, I think there's some concern out there about developing that piece of land and what that might mean for the surrounding areas. And I would just say, I'm sure that plan is coming and we're not there yet. And all of that will be taken into consideration because it has to be. I've been around and involved in local development from the village board perspective enough to know that that's all coming. So I just want to, again, thank the board for taking these steps and, appreciate the aggressiveness to go after this and the willingness to invest in recreation, both for the adults and especially the youth of our community. Thank you.
7 seconds to spare. Well done. Okay. Is there somebody in public, in person, who'd like to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sue Bitter. I'm a 20-year resident of the town of Ulysses. I was a member of the town's 2009 Comprehensive Plan Committee. I was chair of the town's Water Committee and a member of the Zoning Update Steering Committee. My comments concern the acquisition of the 30-acre flag lot off Crumbs Corners Road. I'll be reading several passages of a letter that a group of us have drafted and many other Ulysses residents have signed on to. It goes as follows. The town's proposed purchase of the 30-acre flag lot from Mark and Heather Washburn appears to be lacking in transparency and sound reasoning. The board's June 27th meeting materials provided only vague details, yet information has come to light that this acquisition is intended to support the Trumansburg Community Recreation Outdoor Recreation Park Initiative that seeks to ultimately develop a 20 to 30 acre parcel for over a $2 million recreation center facility. The town board's failure to disclose this information at the June meeting and to the planning board for their consideration of the Washburn subdivision is deeply troubling. Not in the letter, but I would like to note that at the August 1st planning board meeting, planning board members appeared not even to know that the town was purchasing the property. The town board's acquisition appears to be done in haste with little discussion of the drawbacks and challenges this isolated location of Crumbs Corners Road having no street frontage or public visibility poses. The land appears to be chosen not because it will serve the community and its recreational goals well, but simply because the land is available and offered for sale. This is a major town board undertaking that will commit significant future taxpayer dollars for site development. Yet this siting decision has had scant public input and vetting. A development proposal of this magnitude requires a well thought out planning process with established criteria for siting and land acquisition to ensure that tax dollars are well spent and the public is supportive. It should not be a rushed process, as is the case now. The Ulysses Comprehensive Plan calls for preparation of a recreation master plan to determine programming needs and current deficiencies as they relate to programming and facility availability for all sectors of the town's population. The Trumansburg Community Recreation Outdoor Recreation Park Initiative's 3-page case statement does not constitute a plan. The town board should prioritize preparation of a recreation master plan with plenty of public participation to comprehensively evaluate current and projected future needs in the town, financial feasibility and funding mechanisms, and include criteria for locating these recreational facilities to guide land acquisition. Such a plan, for instance, would consider such things as whether Ulysses would be served by one major recreation facility, or given its size, diversity, and infrastructure of the town, the community would be better served by distributing playfields and facilities over time in existing and emerging growth areas. We ask the town board to halt this acquisition and begin a thoughtful planning process of recreational needs in our community. With a legitimate public planning process and an adopted recreational master plan in hand, the town would be well positioned to cultivate community support for successful recreational opportunities.
That you can time that better. Thank you.
And I have letters for to each of them. I have 5 here.
If people are willing to share whatever you read with me, that would be much appreciated.
Okay. Yeah, I can email it to you. Yes.
Moving on to online comments. Jordan, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name's Jordan Bonafide. I live at 8011 Falls Road in Trumansburg. And I couldn't disagree with that last individual more. This town has been here for over 200 years. And to think that we need to take more time to develop a public recreational area is ludicrous. We've been here for over a dozen years, and I moved from a very poor town that had wonderful recreation opportunities for children and adults. I have also coached and played sports here. And if you have, and that's why I wonder, the people who are opposed, I wonder how many of them actually participate in sports, or their children do, because you would know we have a critical shortage. We play soccer games and shrink the field to half size right now because there's baseball games going on in the background. And they do the same thing for us. They shrink their outfield when we have participation issues or we have games. So I would like to thank the town board for finally addressing the fact that there are no Town of Ulysses owned public parks. In its 200-year history, you have finally taken a step to address that lack of just recreation opportunities for children and for adults. And I'd like to say, I know that there will always be people who will complain about the location or complain about the process, but I am also into real estate in this area, and I know how very challenging it is to find the perfect property, or frankly, to find any property at this point. And I'm very thankful to the Washburns for allowing the town this opportunity to purchase this land rather than selling it for the full value they could likely get on the open market. So I applaud you for taking these steps. I realize there will be people who will undoubtedly be naysayers, but it is wonderful to have this. It'll be great for the children, for future generations, and I would strongly encourage you to move rapidly as opposed to waiting another 200 years so we can discuss and get the perfect plan with the perfect location spread out. We have spoken, the community has given plenty of input over the years. I've been part of the surveys where we have all universally said we need additional space, period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. If it's not perfect, it's certainly better than us driving our teams to Cass Park or driving over to Ithaca for games. This will be a much better option. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the board?
Oh, next.
You have 3 minutes.
My name is Brad Gould. I live at 5251 Crumbs Corners Road. And for the record, I too have coached sports. I've had a child in the Community Recreation Program, but I'm here to express safety concerns related to the proposed recreation center along Crumbs Corners Road. This facility is going to consist of 6 proposed playing surfaces, a skateboard park, playground, walking trail, and the recreation center would likely significantly increase traffic volumes in the area. This would be especially true if any organized sports are making use of the playing surfaces, as it would create periods of highly concentrated traffic volumes during games. Crumbs Corners Road is a quiet country road. I walk each and every morning with my dogs, and my cats follow me too. And perhaps see 2 to 3 cars in 30 minutes. When I leave for work on a snowy morning at 7:30, I'm often the only tracks on the road. In addition, the paved shoulders on Crumbs Corners Road range from a maximum of 12 inches to 0. In fact, much of the road has no paved shoulder at all, with grass growing up to the white line. In many spots, the road has crumbled away so much that the white line has actually disappeared. The increase in traffic will only contribute to the further deterioration of the roadway. A statement made by the Town of Ulysses in their press release regarding the proposed recreation center states that the property is accessible to the Black Diamond Trail. The trail is actually located more than a half a mile from the proposed site, down 3 different roads with speed limits of 55 miles an hour, blind curves and blind hills. I'm not sure we want to encourage bicycle and pedestrian traffic along these roads between the rec center and the Black Diamond Trail. Given these concerns, I would like to recommend that a comprehensive traffic study be conducted that considers the anticipated usage of the facility, the resultant traffic patterns, and the cost to upgrade the surrounding roadways, likely at a significant taxpayer expense to ensure the safety of surrounding residents and the users of the facility. This study should be completed before any land acquisition or rezoning activities take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just for the public's clarity, I'm not going to go into a back and forth. There is no plan for the actual development. The thing you're referring to with 6 different paved services comes from Trumansburg Community Recs page. That is not the Town of Ulysses page. This property will be owned and operated by the Town of Ulysses. There are no development plans. Trumansburg Community Rec has been working for 6 years to try and do this on their own. They were not able to. So their plan is not our plan. Our plan will be created from public comment. We're starting with blank land, and the public will have a lot of opportunities to participate. We have literally no proposals or plans for the actual use of the land, other than the intention it will be recreation. So I'd like to just put a pin in the idea that there's like some plan sitting in my office for this parcel. There's not. We don't have any. The public will be a part of deciding. I've heard everything from I want a small dog park to I want 6 regulation soccer fields. There's no way to fit everything that people are going to suggest on this piece of land. We will come together as a community to decide what actually is developed. So I just wanted to make it very clear. There is no plan that exists. There is no design that we're about to impart on this piece of land. So is there anybody? I see Legislator Corman has her hand raised.
Thank you, Supervisor Olson. I live on Swamp College Road. I've lived umpteen places around the town over the years since 1984, and drove in my younger years to play softball down to Cass Park many afternoons and in evenings. So I would definitely welcome recreation opportunities, much closer and within the town. We're working at the county, and going door to door and going to different events and talking with different people in the community. That's one of the most frequent things that comes up, is that there's not enough recreation for children and adults in the community. So I think it's very long-sighted of the town to be taking this approach to figure out how to do it, especially since the Trumansburg Recreation, tried and failed. And so for the town to pick up the baton and then to do it in a way that I trust is going, as you said, was going to look at the input from the community and make this fit and to provide services and recreation, especially for outdoor recreation for our community. I am thrilled with this, and please let me know how the county can help and support you in this.
Thank you, Legislator Corman. Is there anybody gotta get back to my, is there anybody else in person who'd like to address the board? Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Celia Clement, and we live at 5027 Du Bois Road for over 40 years. We bought our property and subsequently much of the adjoining farmland to enjoy the tranquility and beauty of this agricultural neighborhood. We call it paradise. I'd like to preface by making it clear that I'm not opposed to youth sports complexes. Our 3 children played sports for their whole young life. The point I will be making is that Crumbs Corners Road is clearly not the right location for many reasons. I'll begin with the safety concerns specific to this location. Because this is a flag lot, a 565-foot road will need to be built to access the edge of the large field. The field itself will not be visible to passersby. At the end of the approach road, the field extends another 2,048 feet further from the road. This hidden space will be a magnet for people to use this facility without oversight or supervision, thereby opening up to vandalism, accidents, and late night partying. This isolation presents added liability issues. Since the facility is 7 miles from Trumansburg, users of the facility will be required to drive or ride their bikes. There's no public transportation. The 55-mile-per-hour speed limit and lack of shoulders, sidewalks, and street lighting pose safety concerns for our youth bicycling to their sports facilities and activities. A serious health concern, the field abuts active farmland where farmers spray their fields with toxic fertilizers and pesticides. The athletes and spectators will be breathing in these fumes or may wander into farmland that has been sprayed. The soil is dry, plowing may raise dust clouds. Imagine our youth, some with asthma, running around the field at full tilt, breathing in this drift. I would like also to address the additional costs associated specifically with this parcel, which ultimately would be charged to taxpayers. The parcel is unique in that it will require 2-lane, 565-foot over 1/10 per mile paved road to provide access to emergency vehicles, a huge expense to build and maintain. Add to that the additional cost of power lines and possibly lighting along this long approach road. There is no city water or sewer system, so there will be added expenses for well drilling and a large septic system specific to the site. What is the motivation to move so quickly without the normal careful planning and stakeholder input? Citizens of Ulysses deserve better than this. Given all the challenges, safety and health, extra costs, accessibility, potential liability, and sustained costly maintenance, we request that you find a more suitable space to build your sports complex where infrastructure is already in place and which is more closely aligned with community needs. Thank you. And I'd like that. entertained.
Is there anybody in person, or I'm sorry, online? Stephen Cobb, please.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Cobb. I live at 5160 Crumbs Corners Road. I'm immediately across the road from where the entrance is proposed for the new site for the recreation facility. My main concern here is the process. I don't doubt the need in Ulysses for a ball field. You know, I haven't had children in Ulysses that have participated in sports, but I have participated in sports as a youth. And use ball fields similar to this. Although I think this first time I heard about this was last week. Of all the planning that's been going on for the last 6 years, nobody's has asked me, someone's right next to the proposed site, what I thought about having one right across the road from me. I'd ask folks on the committee to think about how they would feel if we put the ball field in front of their house, how that would affect them with the incoming traffic and the noise in their area, and the reduction in price to their property. So given that, I'm here to voice my concerns and opposition to making this a commercial site rather than an agricultural residential site. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in person who would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Carol Brubeck. I live on Boyce Road. I agree with the comments made tonight by my neighbors and other residents of the town of Ulysses regarding the unsuitability of the Washburn lot for development of recreation facilities. As mentioned by others, a project of the magnitude under discussion would destroy the character and enjoyment of our agricultural and rural neighborhood. Not only could the development have devastating consequences for neighborhood residents, but the very reasons that make the development unsuitable for our AR zone make the location very problematic for users of a recreation facility. The lot lacks the infrastructure necessary to support the needs of such a facility. One example is the lack of a municipal water supply. Many residents downhill from the lot already experience problems with their wells. The substantial water usage required by a recreational facility might exacerbate existing water shortages, and by the same token, there would very likely be times when the facility itself would have inadequate water. Another problem is that access to the lot will have to be chiefly by automobile. Not only will potentially hundreds of users increase exponentially traffic on the narrow roads, creating hazards for residents, but it could also be dangerous for users of the facility, especially children. Last but not least, with the dire environmental impacts of climate change, it is unthinkable to build a recreational facility that is not accessible by cycling or walking or public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online who wishes to address the board? I'm not. I actually, Krista, would you mind showing us the participants? Although if there is a hand, that probably should show. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody online raising their hand, so we're going to move back into the main room. But if there is somebody online who wants to address us, please raise your hand to be next up. Okay, is there anybody you had a, yes, go ahead.
Dorian Ullman, 6140 Willow Creek. I'm sharing my thoughts on the 25 to 30 acre rec complex costing roughly $2.3 million, 2021 estimate. The town is looking to build on 30 acres on Crumbs Corner Road. I view the plan through the lens of the town's comprehensive plan. My comments are a distillation of my 3-page letter I'll give the board following my remarks. Throughout the comp plan, a motif is the town's rural character, agricultural lands, and natural resources being valued for contributing to a positive quality of life. First referenced on page 1, these qualities that are either valued by community members or are those by which the town identifies itself are a theme throughout the 199-page document. I walk my dog on a route covering Crumbs Corners, Albertson, and Du Bois. We pass well-maintained homes and large agricultural fields of corn and soybeans. Few vehicles pass us, a good thing. Given the lack of sidewalks, when my dog and I step off the road to get well away from passing motorists, we step onto uneven, rough grass, bordering often deep drainage ditches with steep walls. Lack of streetlights means a flashlight and a reflector vest when we're out walking at dusk. The town's August 4 press release noted that 541 people took part in rec programs last year. As of August 1 this year, 522 unique individuals did so. Ulysses' estimated population, 4,937. Trumansburg, 1,675. 6,612 people. Using these data supplied by the town, a projected rough estimate points to about 11% of the combined population possibly taking part in rec programs this year. The comp plan, page 2, discusses a future land use plan. It gives Ulysses guidance in terms of protecting agricultural lands and the rural character of the community. Data in future land use plan are presented in the form of a map on page 31 of the comp plan. The map shows the Washburn property is located in an area designated agricultural priority area. Factors including 1, comp plans focus on Ulysses' agricultural character, natural beauty, and serene atmosphere, giving residents a superior quality of life. 2, the possibility that 89%, give or take, of residents don't engage in town organized rec opportunities. 3, the fact Washburn's cornfield lies in an agricultural priority area. And 4, location of the proposed recreational complex off a road in a quiet residential neighborhood. Make this road complex inadequate farmland. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like my comments and my letter included in the minutes.
Is there anyone online who wishes to address the town board? Okay, back to the main room. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us? Yeah. Wherever you prefer to stand, is just fine.
Hi, I'm gonna start my timer. And introduce myself. My name is Vivian Rose. I live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue in Trumansburg. And I'm not here to talk about the rec center or the proposed purchase of that land or actual purchase of that land. I'm actually here to talk about 2 hidden treasures in this community that I think really need some attention and recognition. One of them is sitting right there. His name is John Wordis, and he's our town historian. When I first met John, I had just been appointed to the county bicentennial commission as a historian, because that's what I was professionally. He is a hidden treasure because although we know him as a town historian, I know him as someone who served on the county board of town historians and were absolutely critical in publication process, a research process that highlighted the history and culture of Tompkins County in every one of its towns. And it is thanks to John and his efforts that so many blue and yellow signs are throughout the town of Ulysses. But that's not the only thing that you need to know about John. The thing that you need to know from my perspective as a historian is that the Tompkins County historical profession is known, our town historian and county historians are known throughout the nation as some of the very best public historians that there are. Carol Cammon, who was our leading county historian, is a multiple award winner for multiple professional organizations. And it is thanks to the caliber of people like John, who represented this town at the county level, that occurred. I think sometimes we have treasures hidden in our plain sight and we don't know how they represent our community and how much we owe them for understanding what the treasures are in the community that we live in. So first of all, thank you, great John Wordis.
Thank you, Vivian.
Yeah, I want to speak to another hidden treasure just a mile away called Trumansburg Fairgrounds. So I lived in Podunk. I have been a resident of this town for about 20 years until last year when I went to the fair and tried to go to everything that wasn't a ride or a demo derby. I saw horses and I saw kids on horses and I saw things exhibited in a little blue building that were the prize winners, not just for the town of Ulysses or Trumansburg, but for the three towns that fair has been representing since 1850. 150 years on that fairgrounds, the only tri-town, tri-county fair in the entire state. My time is up, but I say, if we can't figure out how to move ourselves to honor those kinds of cultural events and organizations in our community, you know, recreation, you can make it on your farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Seeing no one online, I'm going to move back into the room. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to address us? Yes.
So tough back to follow. Not many, and I guess I'm uniquely impacted by this land purchase. It's my property, basically, it's the next door property. And I'm also, it's also a difficult situation because I'm friendly to Washington. So it's difficult being here, but yeah, when I hear people mention on Zoom calls that it's a case of not in my backyard, yeah, I understand you're addressing that need, but it's really not. You can also be true when you say it's not verification. Both those things can be true at once. You can both be against it because you're on your backyard, but also against it for the right reasons. And it doesn't make sense for this. It just doesn't. For all the reasons people have articulated much better than me here, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the park. And I'd like to invite you all to come out, walk up to the property, look at it before you make such a big decision about it. Because I think you look at it and say, how are you doing anything with this? It doesn't make sense. But when people speak abstractly about tax map, and say, yeah, it looks like a land purchase, 30 acres, great. If you actually want to look at it and say, this is going to be ridiculously long, it doesn't make sense. The area where it's being put, there's a lot of safety issues people have talked about. Children, so it's against the needs here. I have young children in sports, so it's not that I don't want these things to happen. But this location does not make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. So I urge the board before you make a decision like this, come out and take a look at it. Spend an hour, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the board? Okay, is there anybody else in the room who wishes to address us? Yes.
So, excuse me, I'm Shannon Mackey, I live at 511 Du Bois Road.
Can you speak up, please?
Shannon Mackey, 511 Du Bois Road. This property being my backyard. I love this is the first time I'm seeing this and understanding it. And it seems like there's been years of work in it. It's great. I'm glad it was clarified that that wasn't
That's
the
correct.
real plan.
It's not.
But I'd like to see something like this happen. This is a great idea. But out in the country where nobody can walk to it, where everybody's got to drive, I keep hearing children playing. It has to be organized and children have to be brought there by cars and parents, and skate parks, only 16-year-old and older. Doesn't seem like the right location practically for accessibility for the people who are going to benefit. Everybody has to drive here practically. I'd like to see it succeed, so I'd like to see it not in that location.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody online who wishes to speak? Not seeing any hands. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to? Yes.
I'm Dan Clement. I live at 5027 Du Bois Road. And, I've been involved with sports teams. I've been registrar for 2 of the local soccer clubs and also managed 2 or 3 of my kids' soccer. The town talks a lot about preserving the agricultural character of the area. The vision statement for the comprehensive plan states that Ulysses takes great pride in its agricultural heritage. It mentions promoting support for agricultural sustainability. Its standards for flag lots, like the one here in question, state that in areas where agriculture is the predominant land use, particularly the AR and R zones, flag lots should be located on the least productive agricultural lands and be configured so as to minimize interference with the agricultural use of land. The 35-acre field that the town is planning to buy for the proposed athletic complex is currently in farm production. It borders directly on the field that is being farmed, and active fields are all over the area. According to the USDA soil survey of 1965, soils at the site are described as either prime farmland if drained, or all areas prime farmland. The land is in one of two large agricultural districts in the county. The purpose of agricultural districts is to encourage the continued use of farmland for agricultural production. This land, located on a flag lot in the agricultural rural zone, would take out of production farmland with some of the best soil. Farmland is in short supply. 2 people have approached us looking for farmland to rent, but ours is already rented. The hypocrisy of the town board doing exactly what it says others should not do is mind-boggling. The approval of this athletic field project would also establish the precedent that preservation of farmland can be ignored when you're planning large developments. How can you tell a person with big development plans that we can do it, but you can't, or you can't do it, but we can? There are other sites that would be more suitable, ones that would not be this disruptive, would not take excellent farmland out of production. In the meantime, let's not make a mockery of the town's stated goals, guidelines, and philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Is there anybody in the room who wishes to address us?
Mary Perlis, 2121 Pelton Road. I just wanted to reiterate and support most of the comments that point to this site as being unsuitable for purchase for outdoor recreation. And I am dismayed that that purchase is being considered without any kind of a plan. without a sense of what the use of the land would actually be. I do think that among the different ideas for outdoor recreation, youth recreation, the idea of distributed activities is a very interesting one. If a plan is being considered, that particular approach would say that a 35 acre single lot would not be the right decision. That's pretty much it. The fact that there is no master recreation plan also says why move ahead on a major land purchase like this. And there really isn't a plan in place.
Thank you. Is there anybody online? Is there anybody else in the room who wishes to address us? Let's go ahead.
I'm Katrina Mackey. I live at 5111 Du Bois Road. My concerns are water and lighting. With regard to water, the lot that would provide access to this flag lot already has one flag lot on it. I have watched that bank erode into the stream and get flushed down into Piggyville Lake over the last 2 years. When they first made that flag lot driveway, I was questioning how they could do it because there's, I think, drain tile underneath that goes right through that driveway. So now if we add an impermeable paved surface to this same narrow parcel, we're going to have increased runoff, increased soil erosion. It will wreck any potential of that flag lot, short of really building further infrastructure to support access to the property. My second concern is lighting. I did not find in the town of Ulysses code any discussion of rules for nighttime lighting for recreational fields. I did find similar information in town of Lansing and town of Ithaca that specifically addresses when the lights have to be turned off in a field. I'm concerned that maybe the plan says, oh, we'll just have fields and people will play in the daytime, but that may evolve and involve a whole bunch of lights that are very bright, disturbing our rural character, disturbing the birds and other wildlife in the neighborhood. And other than that, I largely support the comments of my neighbors in the Willow Creek Du Bois housing and Crumbs Corners neighborhood.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands online. Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address us? Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jim Brown. I live at 5118 Boyce Road. And I'm definitely opposed to the purchase of this property. I'm not opposed to a sports field. Don't get me wrong. Like in the right location, this would be good. But all we hear about is agricultural land, preserved agricultural land. All those zoning laws your people set up is to preserve agricultural land. I think this is actually a violation of your code, number one. Number two, you don't put this on a back road, disturbing all agricultural land, taking up 30 acres of prime agricultural land with a flag lot. Does anybody here, has anybody on this board walked this property?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
You have?
Yes,
Okay,
I have.
and did you see the erosion?
I've walked this property. I'm not going to go back and forth with you. We actually tried to buy your land that was for sale.
Okay, that's fine too. But my land was under contract. That's why you didn't get a chance to buy it. So, but what I'm getting at is you don't disturb agricultural land for this purpose. Where's the water coming from? Dan doesn't have water. I don't have water. Shannon doesn't have water. All our wells go dry. And now you're proposing, you think you're going to find enough water for these sports fields up there? I mean, there might be water, there might not be water. This should be built where there is municipal water. It's just silly. I can't believe anybody with a good conscience on this town board to vote to put this in this location. I mean, is it, we're just cramming it down our throats to spend the money. It's not right. Find a different location. There's a piece of property for sale on Cold Springs that has municipal water, the old Babcock gun, flat level ground, no erosion problems. I've got gullies this deep in my creek from this farm now, and you start putting pavement there, you're gonna wash this right out. I mean, you people don't know what you're voting on to spend the money.
Thank you for your comments. We did look at that piece of land. That is not suitable for recreational use for a number of reasons that I think if anybody visited would
That might
understand.
be, but there are other locations. Look around.
We've been doing quite extensive looking around.
This is, I can't believe anybody in the right mind should vote for this location.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address us? Yes, go
It's
ahead.
not so much, it's just a question. What is a flag lot?
A flag lot, sure. A flag lot is a lot that looks like the shape of a flag on a flagpole. So if there is not sufficient frontage to meet our zoning code, which requires 400 feet of frontage, a flag lot has narrower road frontage, but is the width of at least 400 feet as it moves back into the property. So you can have an access to a lot that basically parallels the road that's at least 400 feet wide. Is there anybody else who wishes to address us? Please go ahead.
Michael Cohen, also 5096 Du Bois Road. Again, I want to say I can only support having additional recreation for our community. But it seems to me that the process is somewhat flawed, quite greatly flawed, in that you say you've been looking for other properties, other availabilities. I assume that means not just availability, but you must have some criteria for selecting for recreation for our, mostly our children. And would that not include safety? Would that not include accessibility, which this site doesn't have and cannot provide? A flag lot like this, a drive-by by local officers, for example, they couldn't see anything. You go down the driveway and take a sharp left, and you can't see that from the road. So what are your criteria for selecting a property? Should it be available? Should it be accessible by bicycle? We don't have kids. Or walking, even better. This is neither, it never will be. So as far as I can tell, the only criteria this satisfies is that it's available. But that's not enough. That's not nearly enough. It shouldn't be for you. I mean, this is a lot of money that you're spending just to acquire the land, and having told us now that this is going to be a town project, it's a multi-million-dollar undertaking, a commitment. Unless you buy it and then decide you can't use it and try to sell it, it's probably, when you actually do dig into it, might not happen, because this is, for all the reasons that you've heard and the ones I just enumerated, a bad choice, a bad decision, and it will not meet the needs of the town for recreation because it's not available, it's not accessible. Kids can't get to it. Period.
Thank you. It looks like Tina Grove has raised her hand online. Please go ahead.
Hi, Tanya Grove here, and I am a community member and a member of the Trumansburg Community Recreation Board. And I joined today to kind of listen to what people were saying, and I want to say how much I appreciate all of those who support the fact that we need recreation fields and we need a place for kids in the community, and also the concerns brought forward by the many, many individuals who know a whole lot more about land and whatnot beyond what I know. What I can say is that we've searched for a really long time to find the perfect piece of property in the community. And the reality is, it doesn't seem like there is a perfect place. Ideally, if we could have land right in the middle of town with easy walking access to the school, that would be ideal. It's not there. We've had lots of conversations with youth sports teams about what they need and how we can better support them. As a parent of 4 kids, I spent a lot of times traveling to fields outside of our community, some with lights and running water and community buildings and paved roads, and others fields with a portage on, right? They span many different things. What I'm excited about as a member of the community and Trumansburg Community Recreation is that the town has considered making a purchase that will help us take all of the things that we have dreamed about for our children and our community to the possibility of moving that forward. Is the site ideal? No. And I hear many of you share that we should consider alternatives. But I would challenge any one of you who is saying not here to find a space within walking distance with water, with electricity, not adjacent to farmland, not isolated, and not around any homes. If that was available, we would certainly move forward with that and really encourage the town to purchase that. But we have to start somewhere. And I think right now, the town moving forward with the notion of making a purchase allows us to start to think about what fields might look like, what opportunities there are. There is no perfect plan yet. There's no, we don't have any ideas in mind for what that might look like. We really want to kind of help support that in any way we can. So thank you, Town of Ulysses, for even entertaining the purchase of land and helping create a space for youth in our community. So they don't have to go to Lansing and Newfield and the city of Ithaca to play sports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the board? I'm sorry, I can't see your hand. Did you raise your hand? Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I saw movement and it was behind Mr. Boggs' head, and I didn't want to let anybody not have a chance. One more time, is there anybody else in person who wishes to address us? Is there anybody else online who wishes to address us? Okay, then we will move on from privilege of the floor. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, concerns, and otherwise about your community. We appreciate it. The next up on the agenda is recognition of appreciation for Mr. Wurtis, the elder. And we have a resolution that we would like to read. And I would like to, before I read the resolution, I shared this in the newsletter. If you didn't read the town newsletter last week, I did share. Mr. Wurtis may not be your favorite person if I'm not one of your favorite people right now, because Mr. Wurtis is the person who actually got me involved in the town government in the very first place. He showed up on my doorstep many years ago now with a question about my house, and we ended up having a wonderful conversation. And he asked me about myself, and I explained what I was doing. I was working at that point on my doctorate in planning at Cornell. And he said, well, you know what? There's an opening on the planning board. We need more participation. You might be interested? And he sold me on it. And he sold me on the good work that the planning board was doing and the good people who were and who continue, many of whom have persisted on the planning board since my time. And I ended up submitting an application, and the rest, so to speak, is history. So I want to thank Mr. Wurtis for welcoming a relatively newcomer to the town at that point, and being such a welcoming figure. And he has done tremendous good work in the community. And I am very pleased to read a resolution.
Before you do that,
okay,
before you move on.
Okay.
May I make just one observation about the little anecdote that you just told? You may or may not remember that a local newspaper interviewed you shortly after you became a member, either the town board or the supervisor. You related that same little story. And you identified me in that interview as a local. And you don't know how many times I have had in certain quarters made it clear that although I've lived here for some 65 years, I'm not a local.
Well, then I humbly apologize on behalf of my.
It's good. It's one of my stories.
Well, good. You know what? I like jokes at my expense, so I appreciate that. John, I just want to personally thank you and read this as whereas John Wurtis, the elder, has been an important contributor to the town of Ulysses for many years in a variety of different roles, including but not limited to town historian, planning board member, and agricultural committee member. And whereas Mr. Wurtis resigned from his position of town historian in July of 2023, and whereas the town of Ulysses is grateful for his years of service and will miss, among many other things, his contributions to our historical understanding of our community, his good humor, and his excellent newsletter submissions and public history educational outreach and presentations. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Ulysses extends our deep appreciation to Mr. Wirtis for his many years of service and wishes him good health and happiness in his civic retirement. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or comment? Hearing none, I would like to call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. And may I present this to you? I can bring it to you. Where is a good spot? Would you like us? Want to come up here? By the flag. By the flag. Watch out. Nope, not by the flag. I don't want to go underneath that. So we're going to do it up here.
Excuse me.
No, you're.
I will take this for Carol King. Don't smile. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I'm wondering if I could borrow it just until Rich gets back. It's not here and I would like him to sign it. Is that possible? I will leave it in the clerk's office. Rich, when are you back in town?
May I take just less than 5 minutes?
Absolutely.
To respond to some of this? One of the reasons that I'm retiring is of my deteriorating hearing, which makes it very difficult to interact in lots of situations like this. I probably caught more than 75% of what you read, and it all sounded pretty positive to me. So my observations are partly historical and partly to give people this audience, this wonderful audience that here is up here at this hot button night. So to give them a little idea of the breadth of the interactions that this town historian and future town historians could be involved with. So I'll do this as quickly as I can. My tenure as a town historian has been successful. It is because I learned early on that it was to be a collaborative affair. So I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize a number of institutions with which I have been engaged over the years, and to give thanks to a number of individuals without whom I could not have done the job. So at the risk of sinning by omission, I'd like to start with recognizing Elizabeth Thomas, previous supervisor who actually made the first appointment. Nancy Zoller continued that, and of course, Kate Olson, who also has continued that. The staff of the Ulysses Town Clerk's Office have been invaluable to me in my work. The past town clerk, Marcia Georgia, and her deputy, Patty Halloran, were always welcomed me to the office. That continued with the present town clerk, Carissa, and her past deputy clerk, Sarah Koski, and the present deputy clerk, Casey Beck. The town highway department has been invaluable in putting up signage that we have managed to get. The past superintendent, Jim Meeker, and the current superintendent, Scott Stewart. There are also other local historians in the village. The first that was appointed was Michelle Matrani. I worked with her for a couple of years until she decided to become a nurse. And then the current village historian, Sandy List, was appointed. There is a local theatrical group, the Encore Players, that have worked with me. I've worked with them, and I'd like to recognize their officers, Alice Kloss and Ann Bialke. There are the officers and the board members and volunteers at the Ulysses Historical Society. So I recognize particularly past President Joan Hogan, Sally Hubbard, and the present President Joan Garner. At the county level, my guide and inspiration has always been Carol Kamen, and the monthly meeting members of the Municipal Historian Group she led. The members all drawn from the other 8 towns of the county and the city of Ithaca. The staff of the Tompkins County History Center have been a resource for me. under the leadership of past Director Rod Howe and present Director Ben Sandberg. The staff at Historic Ithaca has been also very helpful. I'd like to recognize their director, Susan Holland, and the director of their Walk and Talk program, Christine O'Malley. Beyond Tompkins County, there is the Pomeroy Foundation of Syracuse, which has granted the town of Ulysses close to $5,000 for the production of blue and gold cast aluminum markers we have placed by 4 different historic properties in the town. Lastly, in this pack of cards, but at the head of my list of help meets is, of course, the love of my life and partner, Marion Pritchard. She has constantly read my historical writings with a critical eye as to content and form. She has patiently watched with little complaint for the most part as papers, photos, exhibit material, etc. have overflowed from my office to other parts of the house. Guess it's time to go home and tidy up.
Well, I'm glad we could arrange so many people to be here for this. Too many recognitions go unacknowledged in the town. So thank you for being here. Okay, we are going to, I should have added at the privilege of the floor. Were there any written comments that were submitted that we are going to add to the record also?
Yes.
Okay, would you mind giving a summary of those?
Yes.
Without going into, we don't need to read all of them. I don't mean that, but you're welcome.
We see you have a busy schedule for the rest of the night, but I think we will depart and go start that tidying up process.
Very John, thank you.
Thanks, John. So we received about 12 letters in support of the land purchase and 1 letter in opposition.
Would you please add those to the record as well as the comments made tonight? Thank you. Okay, we are going to push past, if there's no objection from the town board, municipal board, and staff reports and announcements, and move it till after Mr. Hillman's presentation because he's been here a long time.
So
Yes.
One question. So the next, I don't see anything more on the agenda for the land purchase.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you folks are waiting for anything more on that. So I don't know if you want to give them an update on where the next step would be.
If you'd like me to, I'd be
Yeah.
happy to do that. Is the board okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Caitlin, did
Yes,
we
Rich?
approve the agenda yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you approved the agenda yet?
Yes. That was done in
You
the
did?
second item on the agenda
All right.
before privilege of the floor. Yes, the,
I would
go ahead, Rich.
I'd like to revisit the comments about the request for a moratorium on commercial development at some point tonight, just to get a sense. I'd like to ask some questions of Nate if he's here.
He's not here. We would have to arrange for that to happen. He's not here tonight. Oh, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead. I'll come back. Go ahead.
As I'm happy to give a very brief, so not to derail the meeting further, but there is a press release posted on the town's website. I would encourage you to look at it if you haven't already looked at it. It outlines the process to date and the thinking that went behind it. The town and TCR have spoken to a number of properties, number of sizable property owners in the town looking for land. We did put a purchase offer in on land on Route 96 in Perry City. And we were told by the real estate agent that there was no offer on, there was no contract on it when we put our offer in. So our offer, however, was not accepted for whatever reason. That was a 13-acre parcel that was on public water. The fact of the matter is we have talked to large lake scale landowners, and land is, there's certainly a great parcel that would be awesome to do on Seneca Road right now. It's going for about $37,000 an acre. That's not a reasonable parcel for anybody to fundraise towards or for the town to purchase. We are purchasing at $7,000 an acre. And if you're familiar with acreage out here, that's a very reasonable price for land at a scale that would make development in the future possible. Again, in the future, when the land deal closes, we are not breaking ground on a new project. And it's not because we don't have any ideas for what might be on there. It's because those haven't been finalized without public participation. We hear you about water, we hear you about electricity, we hear you about lighting, we hear you about safety. Actually, one of the benefits we saw about a flag lot for safety is we don't want children running into the road. Having something set back can be a protection for children, not just a threat to children. So these are all wonderful conversations, and I can tell you that the long-term plan is that we are going to be forming a recreation committee with members of the public having the opportunity to participate, with publicly available meetings to attend. Comments will be desired, and your input will be wanted. Please don't let what happens frequently, which is the community on any topic gets really excited, gets really energized, and then when the planning process actually happens, is not around for it. I mean, we've watched if you've ever watched what's been happening in the village has gone through a long-term planning process, and a lot of public comment didn't come until like the very end, and we really want you to be participatory. So if you are not already signed up for it, please sign up for the town newsletter. You can put your email address right on there. Information, if you have been receiving our newsletter, we have been pushing out information about our comprehensive plan steering committee that's also going through a planning process. So we have a purchase offer in place. The subdivision was approved by the town planning board. It was approval of a subdivision, not approval of a development plan. Okay, there's a lot of work between now and when anything can be accomplished. And the town board is committed to not just saying, we're going to raise your taxes $2 million to do it. TCR is going to be a partner organization. For anybody who's familiar with any major park projects, you always have friends of groups, right? Like that's how, did you know that, I don't know, maybe you do know Central Park is in New York City in the 1980s was in such bad shape. It was in such a derelict condition that actually a friends group effectively now runs it. That's how it's managed, in part because it was recognized the city itself could not do the work by itself. This is a partnership effort. It is going to need community involvement, and we want you to be a part of the process. But the reality is, this wasn't made willy-nilly. This wasn't made in a careless fashion. And we believe that we can plan our way to addressing everything from stormwater to lighting to safety to accessibility. I have 5 kids. I drive my kids everywhere to play on fields. We are currently driving our kids places to play on fields. The idea that there's always going to be something walkable and accessible just isn't the case. So I genuinely do hear what you're saying, and we want to be good neighbors, and we want to be good stewards of a public resource, and we want you to be a part of the process. So the land sale will be completed. The contract is in place. It will be completed per the press release either later this month or early in September when the closing will be effected. But for the foreseeable future, you will see crops growing on that property. It's going to remain in agricultural use until the money, and it's going to take a lot of money to do an investment that is worth doing. But we are going to do that by raising outside money, to be working with Trumansburg Community Rec to fundraise by people who are voluntarily contributing funds. And this will not be exclusively borne by any stretch on the taxpayers' back of the town of Ulysses. So, is there anything else anybody on the board wanted to add that I missed before we move on to probably someone who deserves an award for endurance for his presentation? So,
Well, it kind of is a nice lead in too, right?
Yes, it is.
Because
It is.
this could be something that we consider at the
Absolutely.
development site.
This might be something to consider in the future, what I'm going to show you. And I just have to hitting the share screen button, Carissa.
While you're doing that, I will introduce you, Mr. Hillman. We're the beneficiary of him serving now on many groups, right? You're with the committee, you're on the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals. You are an expert on all things trees and helped make us a tree city. Even though we're a town, there are no tree towns. We are a tree city. And Mr. Hillman is joining us today to talk about permeable pavement and why I would imagine, why we should consider it for the back parking area of Town Hall instead of just regular asphalt.
Right, so, well, good, well, wow. Show from the beginning, here we go. Okay, so this is a little demonstration parking lot that I helped build in 2005 in Ithaca, right along the waterfront at the flood control channel, right along the waterfront trail. And 18 years of, we did a good job of building it, and we immediately put it on what I call the deferred maintenance program. So basically nothing was done for this. As far as maintaining this asphalt parking lot for about 18 years. It relies on two different things, a combination of porous asphalt and structural soil. And so this allows water to go in and trees to grow in the parking lot. Structural soil is simply a lattice of stone like this with it. Both of these asphalt, porous asphalt and structural soil rely on gap grading, which means there's a big gap between the smallest aggregate and the largest aggregate in the material. So with structural soil, it's a high clay loam tacked to a number 2 stone. Pretty simple. Only Cornell University would patent stone and rocks. But, and this is kind of what the number 2 stone looks like. Once we mix it up with the clay, that's it. There's a little hydrogel in there, kind of tacking the clay to the stone. That's the material that goes underneath the parking lot. And you can see now you could grow trees in the parking lot. And what we were saying back in 2005 is we could build parking forests rather than parking deserts. You know, a desert, the water, when it does rain, hits it, it's impervious, it runs off, floods and everything. You know, all the problems with parking lots are the same thing. Roots grow freely through the structural soil, even though it's compacted, satisfying the engineers. It turns out it's easier to satisfy the trees than the engineers. And this material does that, does both. This was a desired parking lot before we built it. People have been parking there to access the waterfront trail. It was so compacted that when the snow melted or when it rained down there, formed puddles. And when the puddles filled up, it ran right into the flood control channel. So anything in the first flush, oil, gasoline, litter, everything went right into a trout stream, essentially. So what we did, I dug a 30-inch deep hole and then added structural soil to it, 10-inch lifts, and compacted it every 10 inches. And when I had the hole open, before we put the structural soil in, the tail end of the remnants of Hurricane Katrina came through here. It was by then a tropical depression. And it filled up that hole and the water went back down again pretty quickly. I called that our perk test. And this is just a shot putting the last lift in of structural soil. You can see there's a power line underneath this tape over it. This tape designates a little power line that goes from pole to pole. And so that's safely marked under there if anyone should excavate it. We then paved with traditional asphalt where that was going to go and left the area open where the porous asphalt would go. And so it's pretty easy to do that. And you can see the difference when it rains. Water sheets off porous asphalt, it's impervious, and it doesn't on the porous asphalt. There's a side-by-side shot in the rain. Yeah, this is about, this is 2012. So that just shows how the condition of the porous asphalt and the impervious asphalt we're doing. To plant the trees in it, we just took a saw and cut a narrow strip about this wide. And so we didn't give up a lot of parking spots for interior trees. And then we planted bare root hybrid elms. These are Ulmus accolade, which is a complicated hybrid elm that looks similar to American elms, but it's very resistant to Dutch elm disease, elm yellows, and elm leaf beetle. So it's a tough tree. You can see a lower right photo, basically the parking lot when it was done. And most of it was, you know, steel tree guards, which were critical because we knew the trees were an integral part of the system. The trees were key, because water gets in there. When the trees are transpiring, they're pumping it back out into the atmosphere as pure H2O. And so it's a purification system. And by the way, this parking lot was an experiment that was composed of Cornell University, UC Davis, and Virginia Tech. And each university had different things they were looking at. This picture is several years ago, but you can see that by then, every parking spot was a shady spot. You ever hunt around in a parking lot looking for that one spot that's got a tree shading it? In the wintertime, what we found something really interesting about porous asphalt required less salt than traditional asphalt. And I even gave a talk at a American Public Works Association winter conference. It was in Charlotte, of all places.
Let us know.
But and we talked about how when the daytime, when the sun hits the asphalt, the water begins to melt, the ice begins to melt. It sheets across there, but it soaks into the porous asphalt. So then when the sun goes down over East Hill at about West Hill, about 3:30 in the afternoon, everything refreezes except for on the porous asphalt, and it didn't require additional applications of salt. Here's another shot showing that whole idea. This is again 2012. You can see what we were looking for is getting shade on the asphalt there. We did ground penetrating radar. And Dr. Nina Bassick from Cornell University, retired now she was the director of the Urban Horticulture Institute there, was doing research with my friend Gary Raffel, using ground penetrating radar to see where the roots were. And they found much more roots under the porous asphalt than under the traditional asphalt, but tree roots under both sides of the parking lot. A shot of this porous asphalt didn't work again. And here's where where it connects to the waterfront trail. So I didn't want the handicap spot is on traditional asphalt. I didn't want the water sheeting off there onto the waterfront trail, then crossing the turf. So this bridge right in here is actually porous asphalt. And I took that picture I took that picture yesterday. And so when the water hits this bridge of porous asphalt, it soaks in. It doesn't make it off site. There are no catch basins, no pipes, no drains, no water from this parking lot that falls in it or runs into it, goes into the waterway without first percolating through the native soil. And where we daylighted the porous asphalt, we put in turf and mulch. And so that helps collect the water. And it's still working today. Now, this picture I took yesterday interested me because the traditional asphalt on the waterfront trail is on a base of compacted base of gravel, and roots can't really grow into it. It's too compacted. The roots find a way to go between the asphalt and the gravel. So having trees next to traditional asphalt is problematic. Now we've got all these fun jumps as people skate down the waterfront
Roller
trail.
skating is.
Yeah. So,
hazardous.
however, the same trees, the roots I see going into the structural soil and into the porous asphalt don't heave. They're not heaving. They're not picking up because they can go deep. And when they can go deep, they will. This is a close-up I took yesterday of some of the porous asphalt is still in good shape. And as long as some of it is, that's a place where water can get into the base. That's what we want. Again, you can see that crack in the traditional asphalt. This parking lot's been there for 18 years. Asphalt parking lots in the Northeast just don't last more than a couple of decades generally anyway. The asphalt starts to break up and crumble as we see around the town hall area. But this close-up on the right, I took that yesterday, shows that there are definitely places where it's in good shape still. I'm not going to show that's a video of pouring water into the porous asphalt. But I think we end it there. And So what we found is, people, there are porous asphalts and porous asphalt parking lots. Some work and some don't seem to work. Some seem to get torn up really fast and it doesn't last. I think that's related to what the different emulsions that are used. You know, this parking lot seems to have held up very well considering there was no maintenance. It's still functioning. The trees that are in the parking lot itself aren't thriving to the degree that the trees that are outside in real soil are. They're in the structural soil and they're limited, but they're still, and they're surrounded by asphalt, but they're still alive after 20 years, almost 2 decades. They've been shading that parking lot, and it works. There's porous asphalt parking lots at Cornell University, at the Cuba Medical Hospital, and at the state park. And I know that some of them have problems and some don't. But I'm here to say that it can work.
Thank you so much. We had a question about that, or I had a question about that. Are there different types of porous asphalt? Because we heard from some informal conversations with the state park, and they're not happy with what they have, but I wasn't clear if it was a different type of asphalt.
Yeah, I don't understand. It looks like the porous concrete at the state park is working great. The porous asphalt's chewed up pretty badly, and I know they don't plow it in the winter. They use the parking lot across from there. I'm not sure why, because I didn't watch it get installed, and I don't know what the base is like underneath there, but I'm sure it's not structural soil. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I think it's a different emulsion. The other thing is, if you have the porous where you're turning your wheels, that grinds it up fast. And you notice this 14 spot demonstration parking lot, mostly the cars are pulling right on straight in onto the porous part and then backing straight out. So they're in the right place where all the drippings from gasoline, oil, transmission fluid, any of that stuff that we don't want to go into this trout stream, which is, the inlet of the flood control channel, they go into the soil. I think it was UC Davis was working on whether that stuff was getting mitigated somehow by microbes in the structural soil. And we had monitoring wells in that parking lot as well to do soil or water sampling and stuff like that. So I know it works. I know it doesn't always work. I've been to installations like this all over the country, and even places where they built a basketball court that's designed to store water underneath it. And one of the side benefits was the noise. It was like a lot quieter for neighbors. So it can work, and I don't know why it didn't work at the state park, or it doesn't, but I suspect it's a couple of things. One is maybe a different emulsion, and also they're cranking their wheels on it. It's all over the whole parking lot, so they're turning onto it. And ours is a combination of traditional asphalt and porous asphalt. Ours. This parking lot that it's been my baby for 18 years. We had high hopes of getting a big box to build a huge parking lot like this, and then the recession hit. And I think Home Depot they were on the line, and then everything changed when nobody was buying building materials from the world.
Well, we are certainly fortunate, as always, to have experts in such a diverse range in our community. So let me say thank you for being here. I'm sure we might have some other questions from the board members, but I do hope we can pick your brain further. That this isn't the end of the conversation, because it sounds like there may be many wonderful uses. I did not know there was permeable cement, so that's great to know too. So, but that'll be another presentation.
Okay.
Does the board members have any questions?
Are there a lot of contractors who install this? I mean,
We did it in-house with
You
the
guys
Public
did it
Works
in-house.
Department, and
Okay.
but I'm sure that our larger parking lots, the hospital, the state park, they were done by contractors.
let's
don't
find
know
out who
who-
the hospital used.
Yeah, and yeah, I know that contractors generally don't like to work with it. It's not the most fun stuff to work with, especially porous concrete. It's like Rice Krispie treats, trying to scree that out and cleaning out the paving machine after we were done. My crew was not happy about, but it's just change. It's something different. We don't like it. change, and we don't like to do something different often. But it can work.
Thank you. Any other questions board members have? Awesome. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for getting me on. And also, I just want to say, John Wordis has been a trusted, important member of the Tree Advisory Council. And I hope I didn't just get his resignation tonight.
Oh. He has now resigned to us, so
Oh,
you
good.
still have him. I don't know if he knows that he
He's-
still hasn't resigned from that, but let's not accept a resignation that hasn't been submitted.
Thank you.
May I bring Legislator Corman on while we have another presentation coming up, and I'd like to pass to her, and I apologize I should have had you do your update before, so I thank you for waiting.
No worries. Let's see. I wanted to also thank Mr. Hellman for the informative presentation, information that I've been talking with the county about too. I'd like to push the lever a little bit more for the county to do more pervious soil. I also wanted to thank you for doing the resolution honoring John Wordis. I won't go into detail since I know your meeting's running long, but it reminded me of when I lived the history of living at the camp house when I was in my early years and living in this area, and a lot of the conversations I had with the direct descendant of Colonel Herman Camp, who was the original builder of the camp house. And so I lived there with Reby Big Smith, the last descendant of the colonel. Had a lot of great conversations with her. So thank you for honoring John Wordis, and I offer my thanks also to him. Let's see, some things going on at the county. Let me just get my list here. We're working on, and I'm sorry I missed our last meeting. I had a death in the family, so I'm sorry I missed your last meeting last month. So one of the big things we're working at the county is our strategic plan and our 5-year plan. And we're asking people in the community to log on. You can go on to our county website and complete a survey. There's 2 sections of it. One is a survey, which you're more guided through to see, what type of things you think we're doing well, what other ideas for improvement, ideas of things for us to do that we're not doing. And there's another section where you can just go to ideas. If you have some ideas and you just want to write them up or make a quick suggestion for one or two particular things. So there's different ways to interact with that. I talked with our consultants today, and we'll be at least a month, maybe 6 weeks or more, opening it up to the public. So, and there'll be some focus groups with some organizations. We'll also have some public hearing type things where people can come in person also and participate that way. So we really want to know what people think in the community. You might have seen an article. There was a study that was done at Cornell regarding, I guess that was actually kind of like a survey where it was checking which municipalities were still streaming their meetings after COVID. And even though it was close to 80-90% during COVID, municipalities across the state were streaming their meetings. That fell rapidly after COVID subsided. And to New York State, the average is now only about 30% of municipalities that are still streaming. Tompkins County is at 85%, and your municipality, the town of Ulysses, is a good part of that number. So thank you for doing it. And let's see, we accepted a grant. It's called the GIVE grant. It's a gun-involved violence elimination grant. And that's mostly focusing on the city of Ithaca, and with our sheriff's department, our probation department, and the city of Ithaca police, to install more cameras, more patrols, and enhance probation support. And some of the things with the cameras aren't necessarily, we're not spying on people. You have to have, they're setting up a robust protocol for people you have to be in law enforcement or, through the DA's office, there has to be a, specific reason and then a paper trail of, of somebody going in and accessing any information off the cameras. But one of the things I thought was exciting about it is that it will listen for gunshots, and it will direct emergency personnel to that area much quicker than the average of 5 minutes that it takes for somebody to actually call 911 after a gunshot. So it'll get the police there and also EMS there a lot quicker if somebody's injured. Let's see, we're restructuring our solid waste annual fee for universities and colleges. So we're in conversations with them. It's going to raise what they're going to be paying. So I'll keep you updated on that, or that's actually what that's the goal anyway, because it's been out of balance for a number of years. I can't remember how many years, but it's been many, many years since we restructured that with them. And we are also working on our rethinking waste in Tompkins County. And that's having to do with recreating our recycling materials management plans and fostering a more circular economy. And so a lot of that has to do with reducing waste, redirecting materials that people are discarding. And so what I wanted to make sure folks knew that, again, we're going to be looking for assistance in the municipalities because we can't do this alone as a county. So there might be things that are hubs of various collectors or hubs for instance, construction debris. I won't say debris, but usable construction materials that could get back out quicker into the community. So things like that. Let's see. The last thing is we passed a resolution that I was spearheading to oppose extending the life of Seneca Meadows landfill outside of Waterloo for many environmental reasons, including what I just said about trying to create a more circular economy. And there's also, we discovered, well, the health department let us know recently that there's a lung cancer cluster near the landfill. So there's one of the reasons that I'm opposed to that is because it's an antiquated landfill, and if we need more landfills, we have much better technology for them, and that would hopefully not cause cancer clusters, be able to process the materials a lot better, including, lined landfills where you can take care of the leachate the toxic leachate that's going through and process that better. And that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much. Any board questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Caitlin, I have a request. I may not be able to stay for the whole meeting, so if there are any votes required, maybe we can move them up.
Well, we have a number of votes. The scheduling a public hearing on a local law forming the Department of Public Works, Title VI Compliance Plan and Discrimination Policy, a gatekeeper resolution on the U.S. Department of Transportation Technical Assistance Grant, a temporary project assistant position for youth development and recreation, as well as vouchers and a resolution on the Water Source Protection Committee's plans. Water Source Protection Committee's survey plan, survey questions. Is there, I don't know if we can move all of those forward. Is there one in particular you would like to move forward so you can be sure to vote on it?
They all sound good, so I'd be a yes. So it's all right. Whatever whatever works.
Whatever we can accomplish. Okay, with that, then I would bring forward the Water Source Protection Committee because there is a resolution associated with that. And I'm sure we would love your thoughts, Rich. So would you like to come forward here? Where would you like to be?
Oh, sure.
You get your 2 seats, you want to come over here.
Yeah, we can just move the chair over.
Huddling up with us?
Yeah, be careful over there.
Right.
Oh, water came up today already. So I think the timing is everything, right? So the purpose of this meeting is to give you all a chance to review the survey questions that the water committee would like to be able to send out to the community to get more feedback. We've talked about the questions before, so to spare time, I don't know that it's necessary to go through the questions again unless anyone has a chance, has had thoughts about it since the last time we looked at them. Because they haven't changed remarkably since then, but I can go through them if you would like. Leave that up to you.
Well, I would say that staff has also reviewed them and are perfectly content with them, and so.
Yeah, so, okay, good.
Can I just have one?
Sure.
Yeah, so I would just add that this is one aspect of working on a source water, drinking water source protection plan, which the town entered into an agreement with the New York Rural Water Association to do at no cost to the town. And so we have a committee that's working on this, and the survey is one part of that. And part of the idea with doing a survey is that in 2009, a water study was done, and actually Sue Ritter, who's here, was the chair of that committee at the time. And so in order to do that, a survey was sent out and asked a bunch of questions trying to understand what type of issues and concerns people have in water in the town of Ulysses. And so this survey is designed to really sort of follow on that so that we can use that information that we had from 14 years ago, 15 almost years ago, to compare to what we will get now and see, have things changed in certain areas and all. As one aspect of collecting information on concerns about source water as part of the process of making this plan. So that's kind of how it's designed, and it's been updated for current times and with input from the town staff and also RCAP Solutions, which the town is contracted with to help with the survey because they do water related water, municipal water and sewer related projects that they assist communities with. So we've had all those people review it.
And our primary focus is on rural water, not the water districts, but identifying particularly, one of the things, hopefully outcomes of this will be identifying particularly fragile areas that we need to be more conscious of, or try to identify plans for extending water districts if that's appropriate, because it's kind of difficult to lay water in this town. So we've been working on the survey, we have the questions, and those are nailed down. So I thought, so the next thing is to talk to you about what the survey process is going to be like and what we're going to be going through. So in your packet, I know you had a document showing the process, and I'll talk through that. The first page, the timeline, yeah, which was the process. So the first page of it is a timeline of the project and how the time we would like to spend. And we've been pushing towards starting the survey the beginning of September when everybody's off vacations and there's more people around to answer the survey. Hopefully we'll find time to answer the survey and give us the information. So beginning in September, we need to we need to prepare the addresses, get the address of the households in the town so that we can do a paper mailing. That's the key thing. We're going to do online, have an online survey as well for people, and then trying to encourage people to do the online. But we know our population that there's probably going to be folks that won't be doing that, and to make sure we get some critical information for maybe some of the more remote areas, we'll be doing a paper survey as well. So that's going to cost some money. And RCAP, our partner, is going to help us with the online survey, and they're going to receive all of the mailings that come in, and that's to give some autonomy to the whole process acquiring the information and maintaining the data that's in the files. In preparation for that, we're going to advertise a public meeting and actually hold a public meeting with the public to talk about the survey, trying to, generate more interest in what the survey is going to be, what we're trying to accomplish. So people don't just see it and say possibly, have some commitment to it and make it and stress the concerns we have with water in the town. So we'll be advertising a public meeting, and in that same period of time, we'll need to start printing the surveys and stuffing envelopes, and all of this is going to do. The committee is committed to doing that. So then towards the end of September, we'll publish the survey information within the Friday's newsletter, hold the public meeting, and then mail the surveys out. So our goal is to do this by the September 25th and 29th. Then in the month of October, we'll be receiving paper surveys back, and hopefully people will be entering them in online as much as possible. And the committee and the RCAP are going to be entering all of the paper surveys we get back into the online version of it, so that we have a electronic database from the get-go of all of the information. Then in November and March, we should have some real information. We'll start comparing it. We'll be working with New York Rural Water, who right now are working to collect more statistics of information that's already available on the state of the aquifers and all of the other, whatever public information is out there, and pulling that together. We'll take a look at the surveys to see if there's significant changes in the quality and the condition of the water from the 2009 and the current survey, and to identify hot points and do the analysis to produce a plan, a protection plan. The whole point of this is to come up with a plan for protecting the source water that we already have in the village. So people already, yeah, sorry, thank you, in the town. So we already have, all of us are dependent on it. We have development going on around us, and we need to have a sense of the impact of that development on the water that everybody's, drinking today. So we'll have, out of all of this data gathering and analysis, we'll come up with a plan to help support the source water in the town, and to tie into the comprehensive plan and the zoning laws that will come as a result of the comprehensive plan. So then we'll have some protection, because, because today, being on the planning board all the time, there's meetings where we have development going on and people are coming in concerned about their wells downhill, because a lot of us are downhill rather than the top of the hill, and we're worried about the water that we're going to have ongoing. So that's the motivation and why we're going to do that. So the goal is by April or May next year, because it'll take a lot of work doing the analysis to actually come to the final plan, but that's our goal. All right. Going to the next page, we had documented a survey process in great detail. The survey that was summarized in the timeline that I just went through. Our survey distribution we'll have the public meeting. An article will be provided through the electronic newsletter. Hopefully everybody gets a copy of that, and it'll be advertised there. The paper copies of this survey are 1 page, 2-sided. Hopefully we may have to go to more, and we're going to use metered reply. Our estimate for cost, and one of the things we're asking the board is, at least this is a rough order of magnitude cost. So hopefully we won't exceed this, about $1,200 to do the mailing. So, and the cost breakdown, so we're estimating about $1,700 households within the community that have wells and water that we need to send paper copies to. Then the data collection and entry will, any questions on that, on the mailing costs or anything like that?
That's gonna fall under my, under town procurement, I can handle it, so it doesn't have to go before the full town board, so when those are
Oh, okay.
finalized, I know we have another piece of paper that's probably gonna change the cost, so when we get
Yeah,
final
right.
costs, they'll still be under procurement, I can handle.
Oh, okay, good.
With
Okay.
board notification
Yeah, right.
possibly, but.
Yeah, sure. Okay, then we'll do the data collection and entry. RCAP, who's our partner with the online survey, will help us with some of the data entry. We get a lot of paper copies back. We might have to get some volunteers to help enter the data in the system, so.
Oh, wait, our committee would do it.
But the
Volunteers.
volunteers
Yeah,
are
yeah.
the committee.
Right, right.
Yeah, right, within the group that's doing it. Then, all right, so then after that comes the data collection and mapping. RCAP will then send to the town clerk, because we need to have copies of all of the data that we're going to be using and the data that we generate with New York Rural Water, as well as with RCAP, needs to be retained by the clerk's office. So all of that information will go to the town clerk and then come to the committee for processing with New York Rural Water, doing all the analysis that we do. That stuff is a little, don't have all the details on that yet. We will. So the town clerk's office will be responsible for records management and will retain all of the copies of the maps that we generate and the raw data. And the committee will work with the town board to identify meeting maps that for the public consumption. And at the very end, we also were discussing having another public meeting to go over the results of the map as well. We haven't worked, that's one of the ideas that we have out there, but we haven't really scheduled that at this point. We do have some questions remaining confidentiality questions. We're very conscious that there may be confidentiality concerns about this. So, but it's very critical, and most of it has to do with the address being retained in the data and concerns that people might have about providing us information with their address and saying that they're having problems with their water because of the impact. So we're conscious of that. We know that's an issue, but the end result is to try to keep it as good as we can get it. And without actually knowing where issues are, if they are from the survey, we're not going to be able to do a quality analysis. So that's the rub. We have a lot of scientists on our committee that are involved in water from Cornell, and they're really, we discuss lots of ways, alternatives for how to classify the information. So we don't have specific, but it really, because we know so little about how water works in the town so far, we really need to have the address at this point to get the good GIS. We're using GIS maps and that type of thing to be able to pull the information together. So there's questions on that, and we need some, legal wording to make sure everybody knows we'll be fully transparent with everybody that we will know. There will be people in the committee and that do know the addresses, but for public consumption in general, we will be publishing addresses for data. So that's the process so far. Folks have any questions or concerns?
Not a question or concern. I think this is very helpful. So thank you very much to both of you for providing this info. I think that public meeting to provide the results at the end, I would be very supportive of that, just because people often see the initial work going into the projects or the development that we're working on, or these projects and plans, these comp plans, but they don't always see the end results. So I think if we can get a public meeting I know that's next year, but I would be supportive of that.
Well, we would probably do it. There's different phases to developing these drinking water plans anyway, so
Yeah.
including a bit more than, this is just one part of it.
Yeah.
But like to follow up on that and also the other auxiliary information that's been gathered, and we'll go into the draft. One other thing I just wanted to add for the public who hasn't been part of this conversation before is that this is just this is a draft plan that this committee comes up with, New York Rural Water. And it goes to the town board, the town board is the authority that adopts any plans.
Yeah.
But it's a draft plan. That plan would go out for complete public review again, even if we had this other meeting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity for people
Yeah.
to hear where it's going, what's being suggested as.
Right.
You guys have, there is a link up on our
Oh,
website,
right,
right? That people can access materials that you've already developed or these questionnaires or something. Would you plan on providing some status updates throughout this process of
Good idea.
like similar to
Yeah.
what you have here, but where you are in the timeline and kind of what the next steps are?
Yes, we'll do.
Okay,
our
well, I'm not
best to
telling
do
you,
it.
I'm asking.
No, it's a
that
good
was the
idea.
Okay.
We'll do our best.
I know, it's
Since
a
we
lot
have
extra
an IT person on the committee, what do you?
I don't ask me.
To put some of the detailed information there, so it doesn't have to be, everything.
Yeah,
Some
just
people
some
don't have to
quick-
read too much.
Exactly.
When they get it, so we hopefully can get the input that we need.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I'm gathering, I'm working with the attorney on getting you.
Yeah.
So, so what he suggested was I provided you with the draft. Feel free to take it back to the committee and redline it and send it back and what can be changed and changed. But I have this, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that's
I'll
fine.
send you.
If we
with the
could make
specific
this like
response.
more concise, it would be good. So
I don't
we could
know,
have-
don't know about that,
Well,
but.
it'd be good to have a discussion
I
about
get
it
it,
because adding a whole other page that people have to read might make them not read anything, so. But our committee has a meeting next week. So we just got this, so we can bring it.
Yeah, we're a little hot sync.
Right.
Outfitted this month.
Ours is right before yours, but first, and second Mondays, Tuesdays.
It's hard in the summer. People are
It's
traveling,
Well,
doing
yeah,
fun
yeah,
things.
sure.
So then if are there any other questions for the board?
Do you need the resolution passed tonight? Or is
I
this-
think we're gonna go ahead and we can, because they have the questions already, we can
Right.
approve the questions. We can approve the draft plan as presented, knowing that this is a living document that, right, it's not fixed in stone and I'm comfortable doing that. Was everybody else? Are you okay?
Yeah, we just have to modify the resolution because you wrote it before. We did a whole bunch of work.
Oh, right, I know.
Between,
Yeah, both-
between Thursday and today.
Well, we can remove the conditional approval by RCAP, because it sounds like you've already taken care of that. And have you confirmed with Carissa that this plan is fine?
Yeah,
Things are good. Yeah, we've certainly talked to her a lot about it.
So we can remove that further resolved. And while I am in directing with the legal disclaimer, you don't actually have a final legal disclaimer, but so I'd like to leave that second further resolved in place.
Don't we need the first part, just that says further resolved that the town board approves the survey distribution plan as presented?
I would add, recognizing this is a living document that will evolve as needed.
Right, because actually, if you see on this, what you have here is there's this little red writing that says we need to tune up that wording a little bit, so. Get a little bit from RCAP and also, but we wanted to get it out in ample time for everybody to read it, so we didn't work on that detail.
Is Becky still gonna edit that top part?
Well, we're working on it.
You're absolutely right. I see now what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So we're leaving the second.
Yeah.
Chris, we're leaving the
We're working
second,
with her.
or
Right.
To get it.
we're
what she wants.
keeping this, the first further resolved. It'll just be further resolved that the town board approves the survey distribution plan as presented, recognizing this is a living document that will evolve. Okay, well, I will move this. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much to you and to your fabulous committee members.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we are officially not yet halfway through the meeting, so. That brings us to the first item of old business, which is a resolution introducing a proposed public law. This is the law we've talked about now in several meetings, which relates to establishing a public works department. The law itself be our fifth law of the year. The resolution before you tonight is simply to schedule a public hearing. And to schedule that public hearing for September 12th, 2023 at 7:05 PM at Town Hall. That would be our next regularly scheduled meeting, as we are canceled our second meeting in August. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about this? About the
Want this signed and passed around?
That's later, right?
yeah, nope, this is the resolution.
Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah. We don't need to sign. So for this one, we don't actually need a signed one. Isn't that what Nate said? We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a public hearing. We'll end up certifying it for,
Well, this is for the resolution, right?
Right.
For
For
sent that for my
public
purposes in case I wanted to mark up the vote. but I
Oh,
should-
okay, that's just, okay,
Yeah.
that's just a vote, okay.
but
thank you.
it's not, we don't have to, we'll do a roll call vote if we pass a law or if we vote on a law. This is right. So this is just a public hearing. And we have a draft of the proposed local law. It's the same one I presented last month. Or last meeting, in the last month. So is there anyone willing to make a motion on scheduling the public hearing?
Move to schedule the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion or comment?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is, I did not print out the full number of pages, but it's the last month, Blixie presented on our draft plan, the town of Ulysses Title VI compliance plan and non-discrimination policy. She presented it. We're fulfilling a key component of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and this is our plan for how to demonstrate compliance. We reviewed and discussed it at the meeting on July 25th. And so this resolution is to adopt it as it was presented and to further appoint Blixie Tate, who is our HR person, as well as the town's bookkeeper, as our Title VI coordinator through December 31st, 2023. And then this position would be added to the organizational meeting for annual reappointment or appointment.
So moved.
So moved.
Yep, there's a first and a second right there. Any further discussion on this?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are cooking with fire, which means this will probably slow us down when we get to gatekeeper resolution, because that's just the way things work. The next item is a gatekeeper resolution. Last meeting on July 25th, Michelle presented the opportunity to apply for the U.S. Department of Transportation Rural and Tribal Assistance Pilot Program. There's no cost to the town should we be allocated an award, and it's very competitive. But this is they're piloting this with the intention of this becoming a permanent program. So even if we are not successful in a first round award, the preparation materials we anticipate will be useful for future applications. In the same way the town applied for, it took 4 applications to get the Curry Road culvert finally successful, most recently for $1.5 million. We think that this will be a good investment, and it's not much of an investment in time, either for Michelle or cost to the town. It's going to be relating to asset data management, required to implement the next level of complexity and sophistication of data management in order to support multi-year planning, including planning which will help protect publicly owned assets. So this resolution would give Michelle's budget officer the option or the authority to submit an application on the town's behalf.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Isn't this due tomorrow?
Yes, I believe it's due tomorrow, but did Michelle due tomorrow?
No, it's due on Monday.
Oh, okay. I knew it was close right after.
Right, but we took the board's temperature before, so
Yes.
Michelle's
Okay.
already started. But would not, of course, nobody can submit until Monday.
Right.
So, Michelle, is there anything you wanted to add that I failed to include that you wanted highlighted?
Well, mostly that what this grant would allow us to do is contract or pay somebody to do the project management, which would allow us to get the GIS based information we need for our culverts. We have all of our culverts as an inventory, but not spatially based and not with the more sophisticated data that's required to do a stormwater study. Basically, the stormwater study would allow us to prioritize which culverts should be replaced first. So this is the town's best shot at getting funding for some proactive extreme weather coming in the future. So instead of being reactive, proactive. So that's the big picture plan here. So.
Thank you, Michelle.
Is that like hiring Barton or the Judas or something?
So the contractor could be, I'm envisioning maybe like a post-grad, perhaps, as far as the project manager goes. The stormwater study itself would likely be an engineer firm.
But first, we have to get through the feeding frenzy of everybody starting submissions at 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, the window opens at 2. I imagine there'll be some sort of crash of some sort. But yeah, the online application process opens at 2 p.m. on Monday. So we'll see how that goes.
And this was a quick decision, right? Like it wasn't going to be 6 months or a year to make this decision.
They're saying that the decisions will be made, that awards will be made by the end of the year. So the contracting process should start in the beginning of 2024. We'll see. That sounds really ambitious to me.
So Michelle, as you move forward with this, have you talked to Steve Morial about any of this?
I haven't, but if he does storm, what does he do? What's his, I know he's on the BZA, the planning board, but.
Well, you're talking about GIS and
that's his thing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because you throw it around and it's not as easy as it sounds. And
yeah, the great thing about the process that I've been going through to put together this application is that I've been meeting with a variety of different professionals, including today, meeting with the Cornell Culvert Program and Tompkins County Soil and Water, who have committed to doing field work for us if they are needed. So I've been meeting with Esri. I actually have been meeting with them on Thursday as well, who they're at the national level, but it's good to know the local resources to tap into as well.
Well, I would talk to Steve first, because Esri is going to want to sell you a program, and it's a tall ask for us to implement a GIS program in a little town like this.
Yeah, so the really great news coming out of Western New York.
Oh, Michelle, go ahead and answer. Go ahead.
Sure. So the Planning Commission in Western New York, they're called Southern Tier West. They've actually deployed GIS programs to to a large majority of the highway departments out that way. And they're looking to expand. They're going to start by approaching our Planning Board Commission, which is the Southern Tier 8 is what our Planning Board Commission is called, to see if they will administer that. So the GIS subscription, or the access to GIS, the license for GIS, is hopefully going to be at a state organized level where we're not paying $5,000 a year. Mary, to answer your question from last time, right now, out of the box, those software costs are $5,000 a year, but we're looking at more of a tune of like $600 to $1,000 if we can get it deployed through our Planning Board Commission, which is a totally feasible possibility in the next couple of years. So but yeah, it is a tall order, and that's the beauty of this program, is that it would pay for somebody to set up the systems that we would need to integrate it into our routine operations. It would be designed so that our highway staff know how to keep the data relevant, and Scott is very interested in doing this, so.
And I would just note that our planner is also very GIS capable as well. So we're fortunate to have somebody with those skills, because I'm a planner who can't do GIS. So I think Rich is, if there aren't any further questions, I'm ready to call for a vote if there are no other thoughts. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. And then Michelle has a quick facilities update.
Sure. So after a little bit more back and forth with our painters who are trying to do work this week amongst the rain, we've decided that we'll be just straight up replacing those windows instead of reframing those windows, but we'll be doing that after the painting process. That'll be on the 2025 work plan, because as it was pointed out, those stone sills, there's two windows that have the particular problem. The stone sills are pointed back towards the building. So we need to talk to a mason perhaps, or somebody who can potentially fix that in order to fix the problem on the long term instead of just patching it. So that's my facilities update on that.
Thank you, Michelle. Be good to get things painted.
Do we have that work scheduled?
It started already.
I didn't notice, sorry.
It was just the prep work. Some prep work was done on Monday, but it was rainy today, so they'll be back tomorrow morning.
Cool. As you go out, if you go out the back and see our non-permeable pavement, you can see the ladders
I
are
will look.
currently
I raced in here today, so.
secured there. Excellent. Thank you very much, Michelle. We appreciate your time tonight. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, temporary project assistant position for youth development and recreation. So as the board is aware, the county has allocated us funds for youth development, and typically the majority of those funds are allocated to Cornell Cooperative for the youth for the rural youth services position. Ethan was our coordinator for 7 years. He resigned last October, finished in early November, and we are currently out of contract with rural youth services as the Youth Commission is negotiating a new contract. However, the county has money for us in 2023 and does not want to return said money to the county. They want it to be used. It's matching funds. We have both the village and the town jointly share responsibility for youth programming, both in recreation and in youth development. Youth development, for members of the public who may not already be aware of that, primarily focuses on youth fifth grade into high school, with particular service during the school year in the 5th to 9th grade range in particular. That was identified many years ago as a gap in programming and support at a very critical time for youth in our community. So the county would like us to use the money they have available. And the way that we primarily do that is that we would need to do a temporary hire of someone who can do program coordination and provide programming for youth while the Youth Commission works on finalizing a contract to bring to the town board. And the RYS contract we're anticipating will be probably a 2024 contract. And so this would be a position that would be just essentially through the end of the year. Again, it would be funded with county money because we have the the matching funds that we have matching funds happening in a variety of ways with the village and the town, particularly related to our youth employment program that we've been running this summer. The county anticipates they can actually backdate the contract should it be approved we anticipate it being approved to July 1st. So the vast majority of the youth employment program will be part of that match that we are already contributing. So this will not have any budgetary impact to the town. We would not be able to access this money unless we are able to stand up service. So Liz and I, as your representatives on the Youth Commission, have been working directly with the county to stand up a plan. And the idea would be this individual could also provide some recreational assistance. We have talked about, we have maxed out staffing wise on recreation. We have a wonderful director who's grown a program and we're now creating revenue streams. And so most of this position would come through the youth development funds that frankly, we've already budgeted for that revenue with the anticipation when we put together the 2023 budget last year that we were getting these funds from the county. So the majority would be coming through those lines, but we also have revenue through the rec program this year, unexpected revenue that was not originally budgeted for because of increased money available through the summer camp program, as well as particularly we never budgeted for revenue from adults participating in recreation, and we now have a sizable number of adults participating in our recreation program. So I'm bringing this request in. It would be under, I talked to Blixie about it, and she is recommending that we tweak the resolution to in the final or in the first resolved that the town board approves the creation of a project assistant position or recreation supervisor title because these are both job categories that are temporary, can be seasonal, and do not permanently bind the town to anything. What I plan to bring to you in the 2024 budget is money based on the projected increased revenue in the recreation program to a recreation position assistant, essentially, to our recreation director that will be funded through revenue, not funded through the tax base. So that I would anticipate that a potential hire could be someone who starts with us in the fall, mostly focusing on youth development and then pivots towards mostly recreation. I do not anticipate it will be 19 hours in the 2023 budget or 2024 budget, but it will very likely be up to 19 hours per week at a pay rate of $22 an hour for the balance of this year. Again, if the position, we're only really committing to something through the end of the year. This would not necessarily be a permanent position, or you can't even have a project assistant as a permanent position under civil service, but the town board would then have the ability to decide what to do moving forward in the 2024 budget when we go through the budgeting process. So are there any questions about that?
So are we approving the creation of a project assistant or a recreation supervisor?
So
or both?
So it would right now, Blixie's recommendation is that for tonight, we do an either or. And so we're trying to figure out whether or not she has a call into, she has outreach, not a call. She has outreach out to civil service to see if basically a recreation supervisor position is actually better for the town in a number of ways, because project assistant was really designed to be more of like an internship level type position. The question is under the job description under civil service, is civil service going to be comfortable with us having the youth development activities happen underneath it? If the answer is no, then we're just going to do a project assistant because we have really great flexibility with that. But the recreation supervisor would be preferable from, I think, the town standpoint, because it's a job position that is already assigned to us as one that we can have. All towns can have it. It is a seasonal position. It is non-competitive. It's, you know, you can do it for 5 hours, or, you know, it has to, we're going to do it, you know, not for a huge amount of time. But we could just persist with it. And the project assistant one is, once you put somebody in that position title, you need to move them over to a different title eventually if you want to keep them. There's a time limit on that one. For us, if there's a time limit regardless, because this isn't a budgeted, we haven't budgeted for 2024. So the idea would really be, we're looking at just finishing up 2023 and spending the county's money.
So this is just covering both bases.
Yes. Right. But we would not be doing and. It's not an
Right.
this and. No, this would be one hire, one, you know, short-term hire essentially at the appropriate, at the same rate either way.
Just uses up as much money as.
Absolutely.
they
And
have.
that's what the county wants us to do. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not just a waste of money. We really want it to be substantive, but the reality is that the contract with RYS is taking a longer time because it's the standards for when the contract was originally created 20 plus years ago are different now. So we're under higher levels of legal scrutiny and particularly auditing. So creating a more robust contract, as the county now wants to see, as our attorney wants to see, as the youth commission wants to see, is taking more time. And that's resulting in needing to have a revised job description that has to go back through the Cornell channels to get approved. And you know very well that that's not a super speedy process. So that's why we're not going to be under contract with them realistically in 2024 or 2023. So the county has this money and they don't want to return it because it's.
Well, let's take the money and let's move on.
Well, I love that, Rich. Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more. I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll second it.
With the addition of the recreation supervisor. And you seconded it. Any further discussion? I don't think Rich wants us to discuss.
No, we need these programs back for the kids and the youth in our school district that don't play sports, because there are a lot, but we need these programs back to help get them into some organized programs.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they have
somebody on
needs and
board.
we have money.
Yes.
And the county has money. So,
Yes.
okay, excellent. So I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We were gonna miss you, Rich, but I don't believe you'll be up with us at 5 a.m. We do have our town board budget retreat this Thursday morning at 8 a.m. The town board meeting.
If I'm up, I'll join you. Don't count on it.
Sounds great. We'll be here.
And
You
I'm gonna
should.
get off. I'm gonna get off now. Thanks, guys.
Sounds great, Rich. Have a good
Thanks,
night. The August 22nd regular town board meeting was canceled a few meetings ago. And our next regularly scheduled meeting is September 12th, the second Tuesday of the month. That brings us to the minutes. Carissa did provide us, and they were posted, meeting minutes from July 25th, our regular meeting. Did anybody have any alterations they wanted to make to the meeting minutes?
No.
I'll accept a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we do not have any budget modifications, so, I'm sorry. Board notifications, I did not have any board notifications. We have no budget modifications. That brings us to payment of audited claims.
We do have one.
Oh, we do, hold on.
This one?
Oh, did we have?
Yes.
It's not.
Oh,
I didn't get it.
I
I
didn't
thought
get
that
it.
it was sitting there.
Gotta be
You're
somebody.
special.
Yeah.
Aha, I'm sorry, Michelle.
Yep, that is to make sure we have it covered for the scoping phase for the Black Diamond Trail, just to increase the revenue line that we're getting for the ITCTC 2.5% set aside funds.
You want to make sure you see it. Did you get a chance
Yeah.
to see it?
Does that come back down once we get reimbursed?
Yeah, or well, it'll come in a revenue line, so
But we're not increasing scope.
no.
Mary, did you get a chance to see it?
I didn't see it, no.
There's the little,
Yep.
I don't know if that's,
I will, this is the
Yeah.
voucher payment.
they're pretty far along, Michelle, like 90%.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we're working on scheduling a meeting in September with ITCTC and Parks and Barton and La Judas.
Then, well, I'll make a motion to approve the budget modification as presented. Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And that brings us to payment of audited claims. We had auditors this month. Before we do a resolution, did anybody have any questions? Anything they wanted to address?
No.
Nope. Okay, then
Oh,
I
that's
will.
us. No, as auditors, I'm thinking in Sarah.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
So I will read the resolution. Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board has reviewed and approves payments of claims for vouchers number 309 through 355 in the amount of $81,939.18, which includes previously approved voucher number 321. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then we are back full circle to privilege of the floor. Give me just a sec. Give me just a sec. Okay, and again, privilege of the floor, anybody present, even if you presented last time, you are still entitled to another 3 minutes if you'd like. And I will go back and forth between in-person and online. You have 3 minutes to speak, so I will open it up. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the board on any subject? Please go ahead.
Again, so I don't run over this time. Sorry about that. I, again, am Vivian Rose. I live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue in Trumansburg. And I have taken some beautiful pictures, but that's not the timer. I just want to come back to what I said about our hidden treasures here in the community, specifically the agricultural fair. 2 years ago, when I moved here, I was really astonished by the amount of noise that came off of the fairgrounds. I couldn't understand how something that was agricultural, zoned agricultural, could create that much noise. And so I did, I'm a historian, so I inquire into the reasons why things are the way they are. And what I found really did astonish me, that this organization has been here active for 3 different towns in 3 different counties since 1850. The first 3 fairs held in Interlaken, and then held until 1873 on Hector Street, where the water tower is now, in Plowing Lands, and then moved to the current and permanent fairgrounds in 1873. It predates our school system. New York State started to require parents to give their children under the age of 16, 12 to 16 weeks of school per term in 1855. It predates, well, the society predates the village. This fairground has been there since 1 year after the village was incorporated. And I have been going through the premium books of the fair since I went last year and saw all kind of stuff I didn't know existed. And I raised this because I would like to see the town board in some way. I realize that there's no time to have no more meetings, but between now and then, they tell me they're not going to celebrate the 150th on these grounds. They seem to count from the first time they had a fair, so it's the 172nd fair. There is no to my knowledge, the Fair Board told me on Sunday, there was nothing public planned. And the only thing that I can see that has been done is the village put an ad in the fair book saying, we like that you have a fair. Very nice. And you know, I have just a few seconds remaining to say, they also were created when we had an intact environment and weren't facing climate change. So they provided recreation, they provided work, they provided a place for the community to come together. They provided the pageant, the entertainment, the demonstration of the skills we needed as a community. And so my request is that you just somehow say, the town thanks you, and we're glad you're here. Because it looks to me like it's a hidden treasure that we don't appreciate and don't understand how very important it is, at least in my historical view. So thanks for letting me speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the board? Please either raise your hand or your little Zoom hand, or come on video and wave at us, because there are a few of us now that we can actually see you if you do that. Okay, I will come back to you if there's anybody who wants to. Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address the board? Go ahead, Heather.
So I'm Heather Mount. I am a local resident. I'm also on the Trumansburg Community Recreation Board. And I came to hear what I expected would be a good number of concerns about the land purchase and potential development for recreation. I'll say as a parent who has driven my children all over the middle of nowhere for sporting events, that I am thrilled that the town is taking the opportunity to explore the purchase of property and to partner with an established entity that's interested in finding the best way to provide community recreation to both youth and adults in this area. So I appreciate the opportunity that's being presented and look forward to participating in the process.
Thank you. Anybody else online? Going once, going twice. I'll come back to you one last final time. But I saw your hand also, raised hands. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to Andy Hillman and his presentation. And actually, you said that we're a tree city and we're not, but we could be, but the town would have to change the law, the tree law that we have. If you recall, there was that.
We're a
whole
B
thing.
city, right?
Right.
Well,
but
we're not
not
a tree city yet,
Oh.
but
Oh.
we're working on it.
No, and we did work on becoming a tree city and we could do that again, but it was deemed, we didn't want to do what, in order to qualify, we had to do with regard to a tree law. And so if you do want to explore that, we could look back into it again. That came out of the CSAC, the Conservation Sustainability.
Wasn't it
Advisory
something
Committee.
about the resolution was not?
It was the local law. that
Oh, it was the
wasn't-
local
they
law.
didn't deem was
Oh.
adequate, yeah, for what they want to have, and if they have certain criteria, they deem I'm forgetting now, the
The Arbor Day
yeah,
Foundation.
the one who decides.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there was that, but, and we'd be happy to look into it again, but it seemed like there wasn't really an appetite for that, so we didn't continue. But if you do, we could let you know what that was. And then also, this relates also to CSAC, which is, way a long time ago, the board had asked us to look into the permeable pavement, and then we looked into it a little, and Andy wasn't at those meetings, and then, so he came back into this much later with his whole example and all. And so, people on the committee were interested in this and brought it to the board to have a presentation tonight, so I'm just wondering if the board wants further information on that, do you want some kind of a more detailed kind of plan thing or estimate pulled together, because Andy may well be to work on that. We could work on that and pull something together if you want to do that further. So you don't have to say right now, but let me know if you do. We're having a meeting either tomorrow night or on the 23rd, probably tomorrow night. And then the other thing is that another thing that the CSAC is really interested in looking
looking at is what Ann Corman mentioned, which is this, the resolution that the county board passed to their, it's going out to all municipalities to look at whether they want to put in some sort of a statement regarding keeping the landfill, the Seneca Meadows landfill, extending its life beyond the 2025 closure time. And so people on the committee were all interested in looking, and that's what Mary had been contacted by someone from Seneca, Gastro Seneca. And so who does all these other environmental things too. And so we have a bunch of information. We're gonna be talking about that. And so we may bring something to the town. So those are just 2 seconds.
Good. Well, if you didn't get a chance to do a committee update, so I feel like that's if you had
That's
anything
kind of it,
else.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's other things, but those are the sort of newer.
Not seeing anybody else online. Is there anybody else in person who'd like to speak to the town board? Okay. Going once, going twice.
Sorry.
To adjourn.
Mary's got it.
You got a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very
Rich
much.
isn't here, so
I know.
somebody's gonna do it.
I don't have his recorded